Hello and welcome back, everyone. Today I'm making another tier list video, another ranking video, and I'll be talking about the weapons that are available, as you can see here below, the little cards I made. Um, just like any other tier list video on the internet or anywhere you find, this is based on my opinions, and your experience might differ. You might think differently, and that's all fine. Please feel free to leave a comment below and engage in civil discussion with me about it. Um, yeah, let's just get into it. You can also see my other ranking videos. I did pilot abilities, I did pilots, and I did mecha so far. And after this one, I also want to do one on terminal ads, especially after a couple of patches ago when a new season started, season 14. They added a lot of terminal ads, so that's going to be an exciting one. But let's talk about the weapons now. Let's start with the assault rifle, and I'll place it here. Um, the assault rifle on any level, whether it's green or purple, or even from the special store, I think it's good to have. It's relatively good close range. It's pretty good on a long range. Um, Always happy to see this weapon when I encounter it. It has quite some recoil, so that's especially on longer range. That is something to learn to adapt to. But if you can, it deals a lot of damage, especially as a purple one. Pulse rifle, on the other hand, does have a bigger reach, but it shoots in bursts, like three or four bullets, I think. It's a bit harder to aim with, I think, but it does do more damage on a longer range than the assault rifle. But I do actually almost always prefer the assault rifle over the pulse rifle, because on a closer range, it feels a bit more versatile, the assault rifle. Then the light rifle has a little bit less reach than the assault rifle, but is also a bit more stable. I think it also does a little less damage than the assault rifle, but it's more stable. It has less recoil, and I'm not really sure which of the other I prefer. Basically, if I have a green one of this and I find a blue one of this, I will take this one. If I have a green one of this and I find a blue one of this, I will take this one. So it depends on the item level, basically. But in compared to the pulse rifle, even if I am carrying a purple pulse rifle, I would still rather choose a blue one of any of these two. So that shows how I feel about the relation between the three of these. And that's mostly because these two are a bit more versatile in my experience. Then moving on to the tactical SMG, is a weapon that for a long time I have not used. Um, but then, because I had like the automatic scoping turned on, now I have it off, so I have to press the scope button myself. And I noticed that the SMG actually works better for me if I don't zoom in. So if I just use the auto aim feature and blast people from close range, this one is a good weapon to have. So I usually want to have a long range weapon, a close range weapon, and an explosive weapon, or uh, anything that can deal with mecha basically, or um, deformed cars. This is definitely a good option to have for close range. Um, then the default weapons, the mini SMGs. Yeah, okay, you start the game with this. I prefer usually to not fight with them. When I only have this, I will actually most of the times choose to run away from the enemy. They are useful in a case where you're dueling with someone and both of you are reloading. Swapping to this quickly to do the last bit of damage can definitely be a lifesaver. Um, but yeah, it's only in that case I think these are good. Otherwise, I basically don't use them. The explosive sniper rifle is a really good weapon to have um, on a long range. I'm doubting here because it's very specialized. On close range, it's really bad. Just like the SMG is really bad on long range. But these two have a bit more usefulness in all ranges, although this one can one-shot people. So um, against mecha, it's really bad though, but that goes actually for all of these weapons, that they are really bad against mecha. Maybe in close range the SMG, but in that case, you're probably already dead. So yeah, I think the explosive sniper rifle is really good against pilots, especially if they have not seen you. And especially if you manage to headshot reliably, it's actually a really good weapon. Um, and the only reason why I don't place it here is because, especially these two, are also good in close range, and this basically does nothing in close range. It's too slow for that. The normal sniper rifle I used to play a lot in the beginning, but nowadays I much rather have an assault rifle or a light rifle over the normal sniper rifle. Just again because of the versatility. Um, then I have the rifle here, and if I have to choose a long range weapon in my arsenal while playing the game, I will always pick this one, even over the above the explosive sniper rifle. And also it does do some decent damage against mecha because it shoots so fast and so precise. Even in close range is not great, sure, but if I'm having to pick a long range weapon, I would always take the rifle over explosive sniper rifle. Unless it's like a green one, then sure, then no. But if it's a blue or purple one, yeah, definitely, especially a purple one. Uh, I think the coming of the rifle was a really good thing a couple of months ago. Then from long range, we move on to short range, and we have the Shatterstar shotgun, and I will place it right next to the rifle. So like I said, these weapons are useful, like versatile, but actually it's better to specialize if you want to have a really good kit while playing this the battle royale mode, or actually also in other modes. In team deathmatch, for example, this one can also be pretty good. um, it can one shot people, it can two shot people in really close range, especially with Mobius. Actually it's really good because then you can easily one shot people. It's a bit kind of a hit or miss weapon, so you do have to practice your aim and jumping and reloading while firing, stuff like that. But if you manage to do all of those things, I think the skill ceiling, like I mentioned before in other videos, skill ceiling on this one is really good. On both of these actually. So the skill floor is a bit higher. You have to be better to utilize these weapons to their full potential. But if you can, yeah, they are definitely better. Just, yeah, it is my opinion, but I do think the damage potential of these two weapons is higher than these, all of these so far. And the same goes for the Rainstorm shotgun. I will place it right here because it depends on the situation. I think the Rainstorm shotgun is a bit more reliable than a Shatterstar shotgun. The Shatterstar requires more um, careful aiming and careful playing. In this one, you can just blast someone. And even if you miss a couple of shots, you will still get them down really quickly, burst through shields, even burst through like the last couple of hundreds, durability of a mecha. Maybe even better than this one against mecha. But against pilots, they're kind of equal, I think. Uh, I think the range of this one is a little bit lower than this one. But yeah, both of them are just melee range practically. Um, Yeah, really good. I never really know which one to pick when for example, both of them have yellow or purple. Basically, I pick the one that's higher, the higher level. So if I have a purple one here, I take the yellow one, and vice versa. Uh, Both really good. Then we go to the first, uh, yeah, the first official anti-mecha weapon in this list, and that's the Mediator machine gun, Mediator MG. And to be honest, I think it's a really bad weapon. Even though they have buffed it over and over, every time I play this weapon, I'm a bit um, disappointed in how long you have to keep shooting to do some damage. So this weapon only works if your enemy is totally like oblivious of your existence and you can just free fire for 5 seconds. Sure, then you will 5 or 6 seconds you will take down a mecha. Also against pilots, yeah, the bullets do hit hard, uh, but the aim is not so good. The recoil is pretty high, and you don't have so much reach with it. So against pilots, it's pretty bad in general. I prefer any of the weapons above against pilots. But against mecha, sure, if it's the only thing you have and you have a full setup, but you're lacking an anti-mecha weapon, sure, take it. But only as a last resort, because I think all the other anti-mecha weapons are better than this one. Unfortunately, because I do think it's cool to have a machine gun, but I think the single bullets should do more damage against mecha. Um, for example, with the relatively new weapon, the Achilles rifle, I have not played this one so much yet, but what is nice with this one is you gain a shield if you zoom, if you use your scope ability. You gain a shield that also works against mecha. So I definitely don't think it's the best anti-mecha weapon, but also not the worst. Definitely better than the Mediator MG. But this Achilles rifle has some potential. I think the bullets also should do a little bit more damage against mecha, because again, it takes too long to do something significant. And I think as a pilot against mecha, you much rather want to shoot and then hide instead of continuously be shooting, because they will find you. They will see where the shots are coming from and they will chase you down. If they're a mecha and your mecha is on cooldown or you're in ace time or whatever. Um, so for that reason, I think this one is not top tier. But at the same time, against pilots is also pretty good. With the shield, it functions a little bit like the gun and shield here, um, but with a bigger range. So it is pretty good. Maybe because it's good against mecha, and but it's not great against mecha. Yeah, I think here A plus is pretty good. It works. Grenade launcher. This is one that heavily depends on the level. If it's a green grenade launcher, I would say never pick it. Never take it. It's only if you don't have any other weapons. But if it's a purple one, I would place it here. Because you can just melt any mecha if you're close by and they don't see you. You shoot those 5 or 6 grenades, you just melt them. Also in team deathmatch and any other modes, this is usually the weapon I go for because you're guaranteed to have the purple one. But if it's not the purple one, like the blue or the green one, it's really not good because the reload takes too long, damage is too low, the amount of grenades is too little. So I think, yeah, the purple one is really good, but the rest is lower. So I think, will I take this one over this? Yeah, so this is usually a yellow weapon, I think, or maybe only. If I have this one, and I find the purple of this one, and that's the only anti-mecha weapon I have, I will take the grenade launcher. But only if it's a purple one. And since I'm not doing only the purple ones, but also taking into account different levels, I will place it here actually. Yeah. moving on to the Hydra missile that also only exists, I think, as a yellow weapon. Uh, basically, almost always when I find it, I will equip it. That's how good this is. And like I said before, if you so as you can see, these are specialized weapons up here. This weapon blasts so much. It's good against pilots. It's good. Actually, it's also good against pilots and mecha. Especially if someone is running towards you with a gun and shield, which happens occasionally, or with exploding bots. It can blast everything. Also turrets of a Doomlighter, for example. Maybe actually it's supposed to be here. Because every single time when I find it, almost without exception, I will take it. Just because it does so much damage in such a short time and it has a relatively low reload cooldown. Yeah, S plus I think is pretty good because yeah, these are situational. This works in all ranges, mecha and pilot. Yeah, definitely better than this. The homing missile is really good. I will place it here because it, like I mentioned before, it's an anti-mecha weapon. If you're in pilot mode, you want to be able to hide, deal damage, and hide again. And this weapon is perfect for that. So you shoot one missile, or when you have the store version, you shoot two, which is even better. If you can manage to get that one, that's definitely S plus. But unfortunately, not all maps have the store in it. But yeah, it does a pretty significant amount of damage, like 400 or 500 or something against mecha. It destroys any shield. It deals a lot of damage, and it's hard to find where it comes from. Of course, the mecha does get like an alarm going, like it's being target locked on. Oh, it's called Homing Missile Matrix Hunter. Oh no, the Matrix Hunter is my skin. Never mind. The Homing Missile. It's a smart sight that tracks heat signatures of enemy mecha, while concealing friendly units, it says even. Well, the concealing doesn't, yeah, they don't immediately know where you're shooting from. They really have to find you. It is dodgeable, especially by an Arthur or any mecha with a quick dash like Snow Mirage or Skyfall. But you have to do it on time. If you do it too late or too early, you will still be hit by it. And I think for a specialized weapon, the homing missile is definitely a top pick. Yeah. And then we come to my favorite weapon. And sure, for people that have watched my videos, they know that I will always take the iron cannon. If I have the ability to take an iron cannon, especially if it's the yellow one, but also if it's the purple one, if I have this in yellow, I will take the purple iron cannon. I will swap any weapon in this list for having at least one iron cannon. There was also a time when I played around with like 2 or 3 iron cannons in my loadout just to be able to snipe faster, to blast faster. And I will tell you why this is, I think, the best weapon in the game. Not just, if there would be S++, it would be iron cannon. And that is because it has one-shot potential against pilots. If you manage to headshot on a pilot, you just kill them. That's it. They cannot do anything about it. If you, especially if you are using a Jiu Chang on a skateboard, or just swapped into an iron cannon with Cyrus, or any other pilot that allows you to deal more damage in that way, you can just one-shot them even if you do a body shot. Another thing is it's super fast. It has an immense long range. It's also strong against mecha. I think it does the highest single damage against mecha of all these weapons. And on mecha you can also get headshots, which makes the damage even higher. And the thing is, In contrast to, for example, the other sniper weapons like the explosive sniper rifle and the sniper rifle, um, those two are in close range pretty bad. But this one also works in close range because it has a certain explosive radius. So if it takes some practice, it does. You do need to, uh, yeah, play it many times to make it work. But you don't have to use the scope to actually reliably hit in a melee brawl with pilots. Of course, it's not my preferred weapon of choice in a close range battle of pilot versus pilot, but it does work even in that scenario. That's why I think the iron cannon is superior to any of the other weapons. And I have heard people say that iron cannon only works on Mac or PC or just on the desktop basically version of SuperMechaChampions, but I only play the game, the mobile version, and it works like a charm. I Yeah, I'm always happy to find one, especially the yellow one. The yellow one is bonkers, really. Even though they nerfed it like a couple of times ever since I started playing, I play now for about a year. But even after the nerfs, it still remains my top pick. So yeah, the only reason that it's not higher is that I think also I would always choose this one. Oh, another reason why the iron cannon is so superior is because that's just wait. I have to give it a stage here. Is that when you have an iron cannon in your loadout? So, like I said, other people might have different rules for the loadout, but I want to have one ranged weapon, one close range weapon, and one anti-mecha weapon. Since the iron cannon fulfills at least two of those roles, like the anti-mecha and the ranged, but sometimes even the close range, it becomes this versatile weapon that allows you to be more flexible with your loadout because it already fulfills two roles. That means that the other two roles are also more flexible. That's why I think this is such a superior weapon, and this weapon I will put it back here. It was just for a brief moment that the iron cannon needed a little bit of a solo stage there. This weapon has the same, the Hydra missiles. It works in all ranges. I think the iron cannon is just a more uh, precise, let's say, more versatile, and also easier to find. The Hydra missiles you don't always find in the game. The iron cannon you usually encounter at some point. Where is it? The Explodabot launcher, as SMC says themselves, it's the most unique weapon in the SMC. Shoots out walking robots that auto-tracks nearby targets and explode upon coming into close proximity with them. This is a weapon that's really good early game. Early game, I usually want to have it because it helps you find pilots, track them, and it does quite a bit of damage against them. And then you can finish them off with a rifle of any kind or an SMG. But later game, it falls off. So even if I have a purple one, I don't think it's that great. So just because it's so good in the early game, I don't place it here. But especially against Mecha, if the other player is good, they will just shoot them down if they are aware. If they're not aware, if you are more sneaky, then yeah, you can definitely take down some Mecha with it. But in later game, I much rather not have it on me. It's not the best to have late game. Then we have the Smart Exploder gun. And recently they introduced this also as a blue version, which still pretty good. It's mostly the purple and the yellow one that you will encounter and that I have the most experience with. And I think, yeah, as an anti-mecha weapon, I will always pick it. And I think I prefer it over the homing missile because it does more damage in a shorter time. And depends a little bit on the rest of the loadout because the Smart Exploder gun also works relatively well against pilots. This one also, by the way, the homing missile, you can two-shot people with it if you aim well. and lead their movement a little bit. But this also works quite well against people with shields, running around with shields. Um, I think if I have the yellow one of this and I have to choose between the yellow one of this versus the yellow Hydra missile, it's difficult. I think the Hydra missile has a bit more reach and damage, but this has a better reload time. Uh, it, yeah, I think they're kind of equal on the yellow level, but on the lower levels, this one is definitely on this level here. Um, Plasma Missile is also a recent addition to the game, and I do think it's pretty good. It has a really low cooldown, so low reload rate. So in that sense, it would be better than the homing missile, but it's harder to hit. Even though you can hit multiple people at the same time, you're also easy to track because it just shoots. The missiles are so slow. So therefore, I will place it here because it's slightly below the homing missile. I think if I would have to choose, I would choose the homing missile because of its reliability. And this one is just uh, if the enemy is onto you, they will find out where you are more easily with this one because the missiles are so slow and they can just pinpoint where you're shooting from. Then the flamethrower. The guitar flamethrower is really good on in melee range. Also against mecha, it's pretty decent actually, but more as a last resort. You don't want to charge the enemy mecha as a pilot while blasting fire at them in melee range. It goes around shields, which is really good. But it is relatively slow. So if you are dueling with someone and you are using a flamethrower and the other person is using the SMG, most of the times, or the one of the shotguns, most of the times these people will win because they shoot more damage faster. But if you are against someone with a shield, this weapon becomes really good. So it's a bit more situational, but yeah, it's definitely a good pick for a melee range. And in the same category, we have the cryogun, but I do think the cryogun is slightly better than the flamethrower, and that's for two reasons. First reason is that this weapon is more versatile because you have two modes. You have like the AoE frost blast, basically, just like the flamethrower that also deals damage over time. But instead of doing damage over time, you can freeze the target, and the target can be either a pilot or a mecha. And that is really relevant because even if you're playing a squad game, freezing your enemy can buy yourself or your teammate enough time to either finish them off or to get away into safety. And then the second mode that I just mentioned shoots bullets on so more like snowballs on a longer range, and this does actually surprisingly high damage against mecha. So this weapon is um, safer and more versatile than the flamethrower, even though they're kind of similar weapons. In melee range, you can use the AoE damage against people with shields. And otherwise, you can swap to longer range. Very often, I'm happy to find this weapon, and very often, if I have flamethrower, I will feel like an upgrade if I swap it out for this. Very rarely I will swap back. Only I think if I find. No, I think I will always prefer this over the flamethrower. Also because it's a versatile weapon. Then I already mentioned this weapon quite some times, and I do think it's a really good. Good one. I think it depends. So close range weapons, we have the two shotguns, we have the cryo gun, but the gun shield So like I said, the cryo gun, all these three win against the gun shield. But the thing with the gun shield is, those are, and the flamethrower. But the gun shield actually wins against most of the other weapons. So not against um, exploding weapons, but all the rifles don't do much against the gun shields. Um, and I do think the rifles are the most commonly encountered in uh, in the early and in the mid game, also in the late game. And the nice thing about this gun shield is also that it offers you protection from a lot of enemy mecha attacks. It's just a very safe pick. It shoots relatively fast, and in really close range, it can also one-shot people if you manage to do a headshot, just like this one. It's a little bit lower damage, it's a little bit slower, but it gives you way more protective capabilities. So even though I think against the gun shield, all of these weapons except for the rifle in the S tier could outplay someone with a gun shield, I think in general, if you encounter a gun shield, it's a really safe pick to get. That's why I rank it so highly. Of course, the moment your shield breaks, it's utterly useless, so be careful with that. But if that's not the case, if your shield is still working, yeah, it's a good one. And then we have arrived at the last weapon. It's the Sensor Mine Launcher. It's a really new weapon, came out with a new season. And I will place it here. It's a fun weapon. It's kind of yeah, alternate version almost of the exploding butt weapon, um, the exploder butt launcher. But the difference is these mines stay on the battlefield, similar to Snow Mirage's secondary weapon in the gunslinger mode. It has a lower reload rate than this weapon. It deals similar damage, but the thing is, these can be destroyed easily of the exploder butt. So they can be played around, but this can be outplayed less. So you have a bit more control as a user of this weapon over this. And I also think, even though this is early game really good and late game it falls off, this one stays pretty solid throughout the game. If I encounter a homing missile or this one or any of the other anti-mecha weapons that I ranked higher, I will swap it out. But until then, this is a pretty solid pick. And it's just fun to play around because it's a new weapon. But apart from that, I do think it's also a solid choice. It's an anti-mecha weapon or anti-shield weapon. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tier list, and I hope you don't really notice too much that it's two different videos. I had to stop in between a little bit, and yeah, take care, see you all later, and peace.